kennel. Yeah, my boy has a cozy corner. So we're already going to be at ends tonight.
Man, I kind of want to see how Megan deals with this when she substitute teaches.
The bad
it's
kid's
going to be a doozy, pals.
Yeah.
You're going to feel sorry for my kids. Here we go.
The bad kid's got a cozy corner. Go sit on the
They
dog
need to
bed.
calm their body.
Now, Jerry, you're going to make your own dunce hat, and I'm going to put you in the corner of a Zoom meeting.
All right. Let's just start reading. Away we go. Welcome to an election special. Cal and Pals. We the Pals. This is Cal I'm reading on behalf of, who, according to the 8 values test, is a quote-unquote libertarian socialist. And these are my pals and their political affiliation. Please introduce yourselves. Pal. Patrick, go ahead and start.
My name is Patrick. I'm a libertarian. It basically just means mind your business as long as it doesn't affect anybody else. And I'm here to have some fun.
Fantastic.
Alex. Who are you?
Who am I? Well, I worked in politics in various capacities for a long time. So, my party affiliation at this point is pretty much fuck the label. Are you an asshole or aren't you? Do you hang around with assholes or don't you? Basically.
What about you? Clumsy bear. Who?
Wait. Are you talking to me now?
Where's Aaron?
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing. Is Ollie not working?
He must not have been able to make it tonight.
I didn't even know what political party is, so I was looking forward to finding that out.
Right, so we have a hippie, 2 possible libertarians, and a liberal. Maybe? All right, correct me later. Thank you so much, pals. Very soon we'll be in the scariest, spookiest time of the year. That's right, it's almost the election. And tonight, we're facing one of the biggest fears known to humankind, talking politics with our peers. It'll be a spooky challenge. So I'd like to start us out by explaining my stances on several of the main issues. Basically, this is my form if I were ever to run for public office. And based on my inability to actually speak my mind, I think it'd be a good fit. First and foremost, equal rights for everyone. Everyone should have the rights that everyone else has. If a man can do something, a woman should also be allowed that right or freedom. If someone who's gay wants to do something that only a straight person can do, they should be allowed to do that. If they're cis or if they're trans, no matter the skin color and whether they can afford to or not, if one person gets to do something, then the other must also be allowed the right to do that thing. I think that's where the quote socialist comes into quote libertarian socialist. Also, we should be allowed to do more things. This may be the libertarian part. Like, yeah, there are bad drugs that hurt you, like meth and bath salts. But psychedelics are just fun. They're a roller coaster that you can ride whenever you want. And yes, you shouldn't do them at work, but you should also not ride a roller coaster either. Unless your job is to test ride roller coasters, if that's your job. But you know what would make that even more fun? Mushrooms. And despite my seemingly liberal stance on everything, this is also close to my stance on guns. Don't bring a gun to work, or the mall, or the Dairy Queen. However, if you're just at home, you should be allowed to keep as many guns as you desire. Back to the liberal hippie bullshit. Who's sex work hurting? I mean, yeah, pimps are fucked up, and we need to abolish pimping. What about freelance sex work? That hurts less people than freelance comedy does. If we legalize or decriminalize sex work, that would actually make it even safer for sex workers, because then if someone hurts them, Jesus, if someone hurts them or does something bad to them, they should sue them without admitting that they themselves are committing a crime. Hashtag decrim. Hashtag decrim. On that note, to say that we need some serious law enforcement reform is 110% understatement. I believe that some form of law enforcement is necessary, especially if we hashtag decrim, but this current system needs to be turned off and on again. By that, I mean we need a national standard for police, and all the police who do not meet that national standard are fired, and from then on, we only hire those with no biases or bigotry whatsoever. Flush it out of all the trigger-happy, murderous, racist psychopaths and replace every single one of them with people who actually have empathy and do their fucking jobs. I know that wasn't funny, but nothing about that situation is funny. Okay. And as much as I love these ideas, I know they may only work in the local sector. And honestly, I think that's a beautiful thing, because we are a democratic republic, and I think above all else, democracy is a significantly more important thing than seeing my ideals come to fruition. After all, what kind of hypocrite would I be to say that only my ideals would work for everyone? Democracy isn't about getting everything you want. Democracy should be about compromise. In a divided country, I think compromise isn't something that should be looked at with disdain or seeing people as weak or ineffectual. I think a compromise, a centrist, is the kind of person we need. Joe Biden is that centrist. I was happy to vote for him, and that's all we can do at this point. Vote, get political, and talk about it. So, pals, let's talk about it.
Well, first off, I think I just want to say for everybody that I wish I would have just written Cal into my ballot now. He seems like a much more enthusiastic leader than anybody we've got.
Fucker crushed.
All right, so what are we all drinking now? I'm drinking Keystone because I'm broke. Patrick's drinking way too expensive of whiskey to be on a Talking Heads podcast.
And moonshine. Hey, this is the bottle they get.
Gatorade. Of course, Cal's the most healthiest here.
Of course. He's leading by example, friends.
To be fair, this was free. So.
Wait, what are you drinking, Alex?
I'm drinking Diet Mountain Dew out of a coffee cup because I'm classy right now.
That's some Appalachian shit. Come on, man.
Right. Coming from Patrick drinking the moonshine.
I know. I was like, he was advertising for them. I wish I was getting that kind of money.
Fuck, that's fair.
Well.
I just want you to know when I piss my pants what happened.
The what?
I just want you to know when I fall down and piss my pants what was going on.
Yeah, I need to know the reason. I've got Everclear in this Keystone, so.
I took my dad to the Coors factory when he came out and visited.
Oh, God.
He had a legitimate tizzy fit that they didn't have Keystone Light downstairs on tap. like he had an adult tantrum to the point that they went and actually got him 3 cans off the conveyor belt. It was like, will this shut you up? Then afterwards, he looked like a goddamn NASCAR driver, like in the store. He just bought Keystone everything, head to toe. He's like, Keystone golf balls. I'm like, you don't even golf, dude. He's like, it's fucking Keystone.
Don't give a shit. They made that cool ass commercial a couple years
ago.
I have a fucking stepdad that's the same way, so I fully understand where you come from. I think we can all moniker where we kind of
Yeah.
by what we're drinking. That's all.
Oh yeah.
I mean, well, I think Keystone is probably the weirdest one. I'm for burying billionaires, so that's probably the most extreme one. But yeah, that's actually no.
Yeah.
Keystones are for conspiracy theories. That's my new. That's I think my new moniker.
Yeah. There you go.
Already look enough like a QAnon poster anyway. So
Yeah. I had to have my kid explain that shit to me the other day.
nowadays, that's hurting my feelings. It's starting to hurt my feelings.
I didn't even know how to pronounce QAnon the other day. I had to ask my kid. It's like, is it like QAnon? What the fuck is this?
Yeah.
It's
He's
canon.
like, what? He's like, what? Watch Alex Jones, you'll get the idea.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Alex Jones saying it like 5 times in a music video for me to understand where the fuck it was coming from.
God, Alex Jones is like the worst person to share a name with. Like, I mean, I'm glad my name's not Donald, but like, still, it's not exactly a sexy namesake these days.
Hitler's still worse. That's the only one that's worse. But I would much rather be named. What's another horrible person? Eric Prince. I think I would rather be named Eric Prince than have to share names with Alex Jones.
Yeah.
no
Well,
one knows who
and
Eric
you lucked
Prince
out.
is
Your
except
name
for
is
real people.
Cory. Like Cory is a sexy name. You know, there's obviously, Corey Haim, Corey Feldman, but there's Corey Hart.
Don't bring up like I just
The
mentioned-
Corys.
I'm just saying, Corey's a good name.
He just surrounded himself by sexy people. It's not like he was sexy. He looked like. Well, that's the problem. He looked like Michael Jackson used him as a hand puppet. That's the problem with Corey Haim. I think I almost got Megan to spit on her dog.
Yeah, be a moment there. I do think, okay, the one redeeming quality about Alex Jones is that he went on Joe Rogan to admit that he is retarded.
That's not a redeeming thing. That's just drinking. We're doing that right now.
Right.
One of us is going to call ourselves retarded at some point in this entire podcast.
But he is dumb, though. He's
Enough alcohol. Somebody's going to drop something they're not supposed to.
That was, dude, the weirdest thing I've watched about all that. Speaking of presidential candidates, I listened to Kanye West on Joe Rogan, and that like hurt. It was. I didn't think. Because I've never was a huge fan of Kanye West, but that made me like wish he didn't exist.
Wow.
What was he saying? I didn't listen to it. I've never got into Kanye.
He obviously, in my opinion, he needs to be medicated. Like I'm not for medicating a lot of people, but that dude is bipolar. And I've known bipolar people in my life.
Yeah.
Not to be an armchair psychologist, but I mean, it's just that it's that obvious. You know what I mean? Like, it's like when people say that Joe Biden's mental health is declining. Trump's already has. Like, you can just tell it from television. Like,
right.
It's that blatant, and it's so weird that just because of. I think he's a con man personally. I think he went to Jesus just so he could get black people back. Like that's my like I think he's that like especially the way like he talks about Jesus in the way that I would see people back in my church talk about Jesus.
Right.
Bring it up so much that you just know that this is just to have a community that you can take advantage of. You know what I mean?
Right. I think everybody that's at that level that's rich is some sort of con person one way or another. I mean, he's just mentally unstable.
No, he is mentally unstable. And I think you're right. Like you almost have to know at least the con man's mindset to get that kind of attention and know how to like screw people's bolts just so that I get it, I mean, just like he's one of those people that can say he's worth $1 billion without having $1 billion.
Right.
There's something conny about that.
Right.
Did you guys ever see Bill Burr's bit about Kanye West? and how
It's been a while.
basically the level of crazy that Kanye is. Essentially, the one thing that stopped him probably from being some sort of ego-tripping dictator is pretty much white privilege. Like, because he's black, that was as far as society allowed him to go.
Just imagine if Kanye West was white.
Well, basically, yeah, that's basically the bit.
That's pretty easy to do. Just look at Joe Alstein.
Yeah.
It's pretty much Kanye. That's white Kanye. Let's be real. If you drive your fucking Porsche or Lambo up to the church, you're like, the fucking doors are locked. Get out.
A white teeth or teeth are.
Anybody that's got the balls that during a national disaster where hundreds of thousands of people are homeless to be like, my doors are locked, fuck off. That takes a set of balls that just does not
I
exist.
think Kanye West is actually going to create a community out in wherever the fuck he's creating that.
Wyoming or whatever?
Yeah. He's really
yeah,
gonna
Cody.
do that. But like on the way in, you have to bow down to a statue of Kanye West and say that he's Jesus and buy College Dropout on your way in. Like you have to.
Could you imagine the welcome kit to Kanye's compound? Yeezys and fucking 2 CDs. I'm in. We don't pray before we go to bed. We listen to a song. You have to recite the lyrics and that's out.
You have to sing the chorus to Power every night before you go to bed.
The whole church is together. Like, I ain't saying she's a gold digger.
Every single birthday Drake just drops by just to do the 21 Forever song. Oh man.
I want to be that kind of rich though, where Drake drops by just to do my birthday song because it's like, oh, it's a pleasure. So
I think everybody wants to be that rich, but the point is that nobody should be that rich. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Is that there is a certain amount of ridiculousness that comes with the wealth that some people have. That you hear about it in the 80s and it's impressive. Like Mike Tyson being a tiger is impressive. Now it's just like, Elon Musk can take every tiger, pack it into a U-Haul van, and shoot it into space. That's not cool. Right.
Tyson having a tiger was awesome. Nowadays, there's cabbies in New York that have them in their fucking apartments. Like, it's not impressive anymore. Like,
they gotta step the game up.
Yeah.
So,
like,
would you be for that regulation? You can't have tigers in your apartment?
No. You can have whatever the fuck you want.
What? No, regulate the tigers. They're dangerous. They're catching COVID.
As long as it doesn't hurt somebody else, do whatever the fuck you want.
Dude,
I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit if you and the tigers do coke off strippers' asses in your own home. It doesn't hurt anybody. Do your thing.
All right.
But what if your tiger like kills the Postmates guy? Now suddenly,
well, you're responsible to make sure it's safe. That would be the only rules to it. Is
all right,
you have to make sure it's not dangerous to other people.
Guns, by the way. Tigers and apartment complexes.
So now it's just going to be years and years of training certifications.
Imagine instead of Megan being like, hey, stop being curious, dog. Hey, tiger, will you stop trying to kill
my goddamn lion?
A tiger just growling casually next to me. I gotta say, could you not?
He's a dick all the time. Knock it off.
Hey, can you guys watch my
just hold a spray bottle of water at it. Down, boy.
No, the key to tigers is just feed them. If they're raised from little and they're not hungry, they probably won't fuck you up.
He's got the same logic for tigers as that dude did in Little Shops of Horrors for that plant. Yeah. That's the same thing. He's just like, just feed them. It's fine.
And let's be honest. We all know Joe Exotic fucked at least one of those tigers.
I mean,
like, let's be real.
I blame that on the meth, not the homosexuality. I'll say that.
No, it's just him being into animals.
He fucked one of the dude tigers. You could see it in one of their eyes. That's the sad part, is that he was just like, I wasn't supposed to have this happen. It's the same, like that when that tiger saw his husband kill himself, he's like, man, why don't I have opposable thumbs? God damn it.
It was like the same look on the tiger's face as an altar boy run around the church. Like when the father's giving his speech, he's just like, why? Why did this happen to me?
I got to take communion again. God damn it.
Communion means a lot different things when you're a fucking altar boy. Come in the back, you're going to take communion.
Oh, shit. If I didn't like the Pope, I'd laugh harder. Do you have to like the Pope now? This is the problem. The Pope is almost so liberal that you almost have to like him.
The Pope is almost like a Madonna level liberal, like super liberal.
No, he is
No.
not. Very much.
Once Pope Francis comes out
Comparatively,
with the Vatican version, then I'll believe you on that Madonna.
I mean,
I would love this.
compared to the Pope that was in the Nazi youth, he's liberal.
Well,
Like, I mean, of all things considered.
You don't say that to the boy in the Madonna t-shirt, just saying.
Oh, I didn't see the Madonna.
Roman Catholic Pope that was more liberal than our Nazi youth Pope from before.
We need a Pope that's like the youth group leader on Sunday that's like playing rock music and chilling out.
Prom workshop, Build-A-Bear workshop. That is just a bad.
Can we make Charlie Sheen the Pope? Like, could something like that work out?
Well, this is like I think the Pope should be on more drugs than he's on, because this Pope seems to be on a lot of at least prescription drugs, and he's just like, you know what? It's all good. Just everybody needs a family, which is that's the most basic. That's the most hilarious thing about that statement is that literally is the most basic like statement anybody's ever made. And people were losing their minds over that. He was just like, everybody should have a family. And people were like, no, you can't have a family. Are you retarded? Wait, no, I can't say that. Sorry. I'll call myself retarded. You're right. But really, like, so many people, this isn't like, people like to say, because I do talk to a lot of conservative people, because I try to, because I don't want to be in a bubble. And the Denver comedy community is very much a bubble. And when I talk to these people, that they still say that, you know, the liberals are the new like censorers, and in some degrees that is true when it comes to certain things, that everybody takes everything to such an extent. But like you won't get the vitriol and death threats about a basic statement more than from conservatives. Like liberals will threaten to cancel you and be like, you shouldn't have a job, you shouldn't be working with, you know, autistic kids or whatever the fuck. But conservatives will want to murder you. Yeah. Like I've never. That's the number one difference I've found with liberals and listen, I'm the most militant liberal. Like I've been very militant when it comes to like certain types of peoples. I'm all for burying billionaires and bankers and things like that, but most people don't share those views. You got to be a Rage Against the Machine kind of liberal to even think like that. But conservatives on a base, because they have that moniker, and everybody knows this, that conservatives are more religious than liberals. That just comes with the territory. And that base of knowing that you're right. It's not that you're right. You just know that you're right because of this higher power thing. It gives an ability to just look past humanity, because you're able to look at people as less than human. No liberal looks at you as less than human. That's why they want to cancel you. They want you to suffer in poverty like they have for years and years. Right. And years. Because it's not rich liberals like canceling people. It's poor liberals. Right.
And I think liberals bitch more on an overall, but conservatives go from we're cool to blowing up an abortion clinic like really quick. Like there's no in between. You don't find a lot of conservatives that are like, oh, he pisses me off, but I'm gonna go home and have a beer and life is good. They plot for like 2 weeks of like, okay, this motherfucker's gonna be on the highway at the same time as me. I will run him off the fucking road. Writing down license plates and looking for people. Where liberals are just more on the like, I'm gonna fucking do a Yelp review and this motherfucker's gonna go away. You know?
Yeah, no, liberals are about words and conservatives are about action. Like that was my number one biggest like gripe. Like I don't even want to use the word disappointed. I've been ecstatically angry about the liberals' the Democratic Party's responses on anything, including AOC's strongly worded letter to Biden telling her not to put any bankers in his cabinet. And like the day after that thing's sent, he's just like, yeah, Treasury Department banker. We're fine with it. See, strongly worded letters, and Republicans will just blast through a Supreme Court nominee like somebody fisting Donald Trump's asshole. It's not the same thing.
Yeah, they put that through the Supreme Court justice like the first time Trump fucked Melina. It was like, on the bed, we're doing this now. Like, there was no hesitation.
I'm glad you didn't say Ivanka in that because that would have made me throw up.
I mean, it could be. We don't know. I mean, the way those two fucking Biden and Trump sniff and touch their kids, I don't want to know what goes on behind fucking closed doors.
This is somebody made the analogy that this is literally just who's going to get caught for Epstein Island. Like that's who you're voting for is who's going to get whose name's going to be crossed out on the CIA report about this. That's what we're voting on right now.
Who's going to get to the book and burn it before the other guy? Yeah.
Like, all right, get me Epstein's phone. I need Glenn Maxwell's black book. I need the black box from Epstein's plane. I need that plane in the Malaysian Sea.
What about
Guys, you know
healthcare?
what's
Fuck
super
it, get the
duper
plane.
creepy? Here's a creepy one for you. My sister's boarding school that she just graduated from, apparently Jeffrey Epstein, like, purchased a building there, and, like, there was, like, the Epstein Hall, and it was, like, a residential building, and, like, he bought a building at this boarding school just so he could, like, hang around there whenever he wanted. My sister's fucking school.
Wow. How tight would your asshole get if you knew you were getting assigned to the Epstein Hall? Like, the instant you got in there.
Me and you and even Alex, we'd be fine. Who gives a shit? Megan. You need to prepare.
Epstein just walks around the halls at night with a bell, just
just scratching at the wall.
Just listen to the bell. It'll stop. It'll stop at a door. Oh, it stopped at Megan's door. It stopped.
No, it's gonna be like that nurse on Who Flew Over a Cuckoo's Nest, where she just goes around, just gets in the room and just straps you down. Oh God.
Jeffrey would like to see you.
Here's 3 antidepressants. Oh fuck. That's terrifying. Like
That's awful.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, it's not any more terrifying than all those like Skull and Bones and like all that. It's pretty much the same thing. It's just, I think because it's exposed to 100 degree, like 100%, everybody knows that's shit.
Right.
Like, it's not even a thing anymore. And it's probably the most agreed upon conspiracy theory to happen in the last 30 years.
Yeah.
That everybody's just like, he didn't kill himself. There's no way.
It's not like 20 or 30 years ago, you know, where it was rumor from Alabama that something happened. Now it's everywhere, and people know, and there's evidence, and people are like, you know what? How the fuck did cameras get shut off? And he kills himself. You know, that's not a coincidence.
No, it's one of the most.
Do we actually give a shit, though? Do we really give a shit whether he killed himself or not?
I
do in the extent that if he didn't, maybe we get some names and deal with some.
Yeah, like
you know.
The thing about is that I care. I'm glad he's dead. I'm not saying.
Oh yeah.
Dead. Like I am ecstatic that he's dead. I wish that it would have taken longer for him to die in that moment, but I wish he would have made it to trial. Just to, I don't even think this is the fucked up thing. I don't think he would have said any names. I think he got a good deal, but I think that the people in power, or the people that are on that list, I'm not even gonna say people in power. That's a way too broad of a list. The people that were on that list wanted to send a message to, because he's not the only connection they have to doing those things. It's not
there's staff and all sorts of stuff.
There's some fucking Thailand fisherman who does that as a cover. He lives poor as shit, but he's got billions of dollars because he's taking like billionaires to this small island off the coast.
He delivers kids to the fucking island or something. He's making money, you know.
Neckbeard Alex Jones right now. The
drunker you get, the more Alex Jones makes sense.
I know.
All right. So we know.
Everybody's got an Alex Jones in their family though, like at Thanksgiving, that like everybody's chilled around, relaxed, eating turkey, and he's like, Epstein didn't fucking kill himself, and they're you're like, whoa.
Isn't Alex Jones just, Oprah for sad white men?
Yeah. Yeah.
I know a lot of sad white men. I feel like Joe Rogan is the Oprah for sad white men.
The what?
I feel like Joe Rogan is the Oprah for sad white men, and Alex Jones is like the Oprah for incels, basically.
No, he's the Dr. Phil. That's what Alex Jones is. Dr. Phil or Alex Jones is the Dr. Phil of sad white man, where he's just like, I'm going to tell you, I've got the document. I wish I could do a better Dr. Phil, to be honest. Joe, like that's the thing is that like in the beginning, it was so weird to watch Joe Rogan go from, weed smoking hippie that everybody thought he was like weed smoker. He's a hippie. He does psychedelics. He's a crazy person. Now it's just for white dudes. Like it's not anything past that. That's what people put him in the corner of. And I think that while I don't agree with him anymore because his views have changed very, very much, and I disagree with his politics in particularly a lot, but at the same time, he is very motivational. It's the same problem that I have with what's that dumbass's name that Jordan Peterson. It's the same problem I have with Jordan Peterson. I can't stand the way that he talks and what he talks about. You cannot deny that it has motivated some people to actually do better in their lives, and I've seen that like personally. I've introduced like people to Joe Rogan, and then they start doing better in their lives just from like being, because people suck, and people need to be told that they can do better. Like most people like to think that they suck, and somebody needs to tell you that's better. And not everybody is going to be for Joe doing that, and not everybody's going to be for Oprah doing that. Not everybody's going to be for fucking some yogi on the side of the road to do that for them. But some people need all those kinds of people. Mm. And if it wasn't, I mean, as much as I will talk shit about him, and I can't stand him now, if it wasn't for Joe Rogan, I would have never started comedy. So I have to give that up to him. So everything's bad, and he is, and I was a sad white boy, so you were 100% right on that. At that moment, I was moving out of Missouri, and I was back in Colorado, and I had nothing to look forward to, and that motherfucker being like, screw it, do it, who cares? And now I'm here, and I get to talk to you guys.
Oh. Full circle.
Mm-hmm. Didn't want to go on a personal rant. I feel like everybody sees these people as this thing, and everybody just wants to paint a lot of people as this certain thing, and everybody's done bad. He's done bad, but it's not like he's done bad to the extent of, well, let's take the most crazy example. He hasn't raped anybody. Mm. And like there's always a road back for everybody who hasn't done something that egregious. It's pretty much that and fucking over the poor to get $1 billion. Those are my two.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have a way back.
And that was why I brought up Joe Rogan.
You have more of a way back to raping somebody at this point.
I feel like Joe Rogan is not like a bad person. He's a guy who occasionally makes me do this. Yeah. Whereas I feel like Alex Jones is like objectively a way worse person. Mm-hmm. That's what makes me think. Like I feel like sad white guy equals Joe Rogan, incel equals Alex Jones. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that is very true. That there is if you were to have a circle graph, there would be a lot of this going on because of just because that was the thing in the beginning too, is that Joe Rogan was a conspiracy theorist, like through and like, questioning the moon landings, things like that, to that crazy extent, and that attracts. Oh, I'm being disgusting, but that attracts the kind of people that will be lured to these things like QAnon and incels, right, like that, because when you have that much time and no pussy, you're going to get to conspiracy theories. That's just how it goes.
If you ain't got shit to do, you're going to listen to a lot of fucking podcasts. I think that's what Rogan is. I think Rogan said a lot of stuff with the idea that people with time on their hands want to latch on to something.
Yeah.
So if you throw some crazy shit out there, all of a sudden, if 2,000 people that day tune into your podcast and you're building a thing, I don't think that's no different than a lot of people that just throw out insane shit like, yeah, I saw fucking Bigfoot on Tuesday. Well, you know what? There's a bunch of Bigfoot fucking people out there, and all of a sudden they're tuning in to that episode, and it grows to that. Alex Jones, I just think, is just, I mean, it's your racist grandpa that you sit around and you're like, oh, he's talking about the 40s again and his dementia, and he's just going off.
Okay, so but here's the question about that, because I agree with you, but should he be taken off of YouTube? Because like there's the problem with this whole thing. He is a piece of shit, and this is the thing that people criticize Joe Rogan for probably the most out of everything I've heard about him, is that he allows anybody on his show.
Right.
And I've always been of the opinion that you should let anybody speak, for the sole fact that most of the time you're gonna see how ridiculous they are. And that was the number one thing that you got from Kanye West. And like when you watch Donald Trump speak, they can't finish sentences, and they lily pad from talking point to talking point to talking point. And if you let somebody talk over 3 hours, you're going to see that very blatant. And it's the same thing when somebody has bad ideas. If they can't back it up over a 3 hour period, then it shows that they're ridiculous. That was one of my favorite podcasts I've listened to in the last year was Bernie Sanders on Joe Rogan's, because he got 2 hours to actually speak and not just have these talking points where they're going to play on a fucking CNN news channel and you're not going to understand it. He had a laid out plan, and he got an hour and a half straight to just talk about it, and Joe was just asking random questions. And that's why, like, I like when he was running, I liked him especially more than like everybody else, including fucking what's Ali Wong's twin brother's name? Andrew Yang.
Andrew Yang.
Yeah.
Started with an A.
Yeah, exactly. But like because he was on that show, and like I'm a UBI supporter, but the way that he was explaining it at some points, he wanted to take it from things that it shouldn't be taken from. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so
I don't believe in censorship though on YouTube. No. I mean,
I think it's the thing that makes it difficult is that YouTube is in fact a private company. It's a private company that's treated like a public forum, but the fact of the matter is they kick people off based on loss of ad revenue.
Right.
Pissing people off leads to loss of ad revenue.
There's no way that Alex Jones was losing ad revenue. He gets like 1 million views of video. So that's, you can say that. And I know what you're saying with the
but I'm talking about advertisers not wanting to be associated with
it. Okay.
Yeah. Like advertisers will pull out of YouTube completely if someone on YouTube fucks up. Like that's what caused the adpocalypse, a couple of years ago. It was Logan Paul and his whole suicide forest thing, and then next thing you know, all of these advertisers are pulling out of YouTube as a whole, which is causing demonetizations all over the place. Like basically YouTube is just trying to like do their business, and I feel like the biggest thing with YouTube right now is if they were to kick Alex Jones off and not people like Onision, for instance, then we have a problem, because Alex Jones has talked a bunch of shit, but like Onision's actually done like predatory, grooming, borderline pedophilic behaviors. And it's like, if he's still here, Alex Jones should still be here, in my opinion. But on the other hand, YouTube is a private company who can do whatever they damn well please.
Who is, I'm forgetting. I've heard. What was the other name you said besides Alex Jones?
Oh, Onision. He's just this YouTuber that like he's sort of like an OG YouTuber. Like he was the I'm a Banana guy, but basically
that dude.
We know him from that.
He's like one of the most popular YouTubers of all time, but like recently a lot of like fucked up shit has come out about him, but it's not shit he's said, it's shit he's done, you know?
I just want to say that in 20 years, when we're like, where did this dictator come from? Remember the peanut butter jelly dude? One of our leaders is going to be known for a YouTube video in like 30 years. I swear to God. You know that video the dog juggled? That's where we got Kim Jong-il.
All of what does the Fox say will be in Congress? So
Yeah,
just the whole thing of it. Yeah.
No, see, and that is the thing is because there's an argument for the company thing, right? Because that's what everybody says about free speech when it comes to canceling somebody, is that it's not that we're against free speech. This is a private company. If they want to be associated with this dickhead that says this fucked up shit, then yeah, they can totally do that. And we can't do anything about it, but we want to pressure them into doing it, and we can because they're a private company, and they can fire them for any speech that they do because they're a private company. And that's probably the most capitalist things I've heard liberals say.
Right. As long as the government's not getting involved, they can do what they want.
Yeah, that's a problem.
This is where I draw the line. I am not a libertarian. I just hear like government stays out of it. No.
I don't believe that certain companies. I think certain companies should have a. See, this is the problem: is that you have a catch-22. You don't want any speech censored, right? But you also don't want misinformation getting out. And so the problem with that is that as private companies, these private companies almost thrive on misinformation.
Right.
What gets the most reactions from people? It's mostly fake news articles. It's not the truth, because the truth is middle line, reasonable, and nobody wants to talk reasonable.
Right, and it's fucking sad because they put out misinformation in this technology age. How hard is it to you Google something and find out what's right or wrong? Hey, I read an article. It said that Joe Biden has 8 penises and a porcupine back. I'm not going to just share that as truth, but you can research shit like that and narrow it down.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
But that's the problem is that.
What about we let Megan talk?
What were you gonna say, Megan? Yeah, he's right.
All right.
Just, I don't know. Like, I feel like there should be some sort of FDA kind of umbrella thing for like truth. Okay? Like, I feel like there's got to be like, if YouTube's gonna like QAnon or whoever like be online, it should be like, hey, none of this is actually true, but enjoy this. It's for entertainment. Because, you know, like we've heard about like Fox going to court and Alex Jones going to court saying like, nobody should believe what I have to say. And they're like, okay, that checks out. The gavel.
And some places have done that. It's just, and I hate slippery slope arguments because I like to have things just on facts and just what, but it is a slippery slope to just like what is truth and what are they censoring. And I can see that point of view because like I've seen, I mean, how many people on the streets do you think know that the Vietnam War was a false flag? Like that's proven 100%. Nixon like said it, like all that shit, it was proven. How many people do you think actually know that?
Not enough. Yeah.
No, exactly.
4 to 7%.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
But if you just got the term that you wanted to change history, you could just say that information doesn't get out. And like you need people to say everything to know, like but I don't even like that. There's no clear answer here with that kind of stuff. That's the problem.
Well, the issue with like you said, like an FDA type of thing on truth, right?
Yeah.
Who would be in charge of that? Because like we wouldn't want Donald Trump being like in charge of what is and isn't truth right now, and he's sort of the guy at this moment. So like that's the thing. Like I feel like media has to stay media has to stay separate from the government. Otherwise, like the government can present whatever type of truth they want.
I mean, it's the freedom of the press.
But then there was like an amendment or something way back when that they repealed. I forget the whole thing.
Oh, yelling in a theater.
Yeah.
That's what you're thinking of.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can't cause initial panic with your speech. You can't if there's a reasonable suspicion that you would cause a I forget the word they use, but I've looked this up because that is probably the most interesting law we have in this country.
It's like creating a falsified panic.
Interpreted.
Yeah.
Well, That's not even what I was thinking of. I was thinking of like this old law, like back before Fox News was a thing. It was just like, okay, we got to address both sides of the politics. Like this is what these guys stand for, and then this is what these guys stand for, or like equal time.
Oh, you're talking about the fair like if I give 30 minutes to this guy to talk about libertarian views, I got to give 30 minutes to this guy to talk about socialist views.
Gotcha.
Yeah, okay, that. And I think
that was never a law, though. That was always just a norm. That was just a thing, the way it was done.
Like a policy kind of thing.
Yeah, it was more of a
Yeah.
but people don't even hold true it. That was one of the biggest things with YouTube is that you can kind of just spout your own views and you don't got to say anything else. You have to be a government. It wasn't any place like CNN doesn't get that, but PBS gets that because they're government subsidy.
Mhm.
Like that's the only people that actually do that. When it comes to having to do it, I should say. You have to have a government subsidy to do that. So like that's why you'll see Fox News bring on the most rickshaw Democrat and just don't worry, I'll do something. I'll say a word.
It's like when you used to walk through the grocery store and you see the National Enquirer and
Yeah.
you'd see those ads and no one took that as truth. Everybody knew it was bullshit. But now this, I don't want to say generation because it's old people too and young, but this time right now, people see shit that just randomly pops up and they're like just instantly fact. And they won't listen to anything. They won't back off it. And that's an issue from both sides. You know, whether it's Donald Trump's a lizard man or he's the worst human being ever, or Biden can't wipe his own ass or he's going to save the world. You know, they put information out as fact and people just lash onto it so tight it's fact.
Facebook is if you took the National Enquirer and just threw it out the street and it just landed on everybody's face.
Right. With fact checkers that try to figure out, like, do I agree with this and is this fact to me? So I'm going to say if it's fact or not on there. I love the partial facts where they're like, the U.S. bombed 793 countries last year. And they're like, that's partially false. It was 798. You know? And you're like, come on, man. Like,
it wasn't so bad, guys.
Right.
Guys.
Like, they were one off. It's
5
false.
weddings got bombed. Come on, 5 weddings.
Yeah.
I only counted as one. What the hell?
Yeah, it was a congregation wedding.
Yeah, partially wrong.
Yeah.
I like this idea that you could be partially wrong. Like,
well, it's alternative facts.
no, you can't. There's right and then there's wrong. Like, one might argue that you know, it's wrong to say that this is a blanket, but more wrong to say it's a tomato. But like either way, it's not a blanket or a goddamn tomato. It's a fucking pillow that has a fucking skull face on it. That is what it is.
But the partially wrong wouldn't be that it's a pillow or blanket. Would it be, is it eggshell white or milk white? You know, and somebody would say this is milk white, and they go partially wrong. It's eggshell. You know, it's still relatively the same. And I'm not talking about like egregious things like, oh, you know, somebody raped somebody or something horrible. It's more of this like how you interpret it and who interprets it a certain way. You know.
That can be like I get what Alex is saying and I get what you were saying. There is a certain point where like there is a gray area when it comes to right and wrong on like opinion things, right? But like numbers are numbers. Like that is a wrong or right situation, and but an interpretation of those numbers can be a sort of wrong and sort of right conversation. It's like, has anybody here ever watched Freakonomics? Has anybody done that? No, it was a documentary, and they had a study on there in the very beginning that showed that 18 years after Roe versus Wade was passed and abortions were easily acceptable, that crime went down exponentially. And the interpretation of that is that, you know, those babies weren't born into low-income households and thus were less propensity to commit criminal acts. And you can take that, and that's kind of right. That is kind of right, but at the same time, you had to look at also all the education that was put in those times, all the subsidies into those projects and things like that. And you can have a partial right answer that the abortions did help that, but it wasn't just that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's what I think that Patrick is talking about, partial right and partial wrong. Because you can take a data set and just say one thing about it. It's that science paper kind of thing of causality doesn't exactly mean causation. You know what I mean? And that's where partial right and partial right comes along, in my opinion. Megan, do you have anything to add?
I don't know. This guy's sounded intellectual. I've not seen Freakonomics. I'm sorry, Cory. Sounds freaky. Huh. What are you doing tonight after this?
Oh, I like how this has went from complete politics to more of a First Amendment debate. Kind of interesting.
I mean, it kind of feels like that's what it comes down to.
Oh, it usually does. There's so many disagreements amongst parties of what's right and wrong, what's free, what's not free, and we live in this society where people can't sit down and say, "This is what I believe in. This is what you believe in," and civilly discuss it, even if your mind doesn't change. It's just like when the election happens. If Trump gets elected, people are going to riot. If Biden gets elected, people are going to riot. It's just, at times you have to admit that you lost the game and fight for the things that are important for you, but, doing crazy shit probably isn't the answer. Although I completely support everyone's right to protest. Just don't take shits on sidewalks and break windows, please. Like, can we do it somewhat civilized? Like, we don't need the shootings and, crazy shit with kids coming from Wisconsin and going down and shooting people and, the freaking 9 News deciding they're going to blast people.
Well, it depends on how crazy you think it actually is. Like how.
Yeah.
And well, this is like, I get everybody wants peaceful protest, right?
Mm-hmm.
The problem with that is that when I watched Target burn, a few days later they started to change stuff. Like, it wasn't until we've had protests after protests in Ferguson and all these places. It wasn't until we went after the corporations that they started to do things. And that is my biggest problem with how our system works, is that our politicians don't work for us, they work for corporations. So when we talk about people not doing egregious, aggressive things, if the dog isn't going to listen, you got to go after the person that's holding the leash. And the people that hold the leash are corporations, and they don't listen to just talks. I mean, I've been a part of a strike at a work, and they just fired everybody.
Right.
Talk with just peaceful action, because they will just shut you down. And then you have things like agent provocateurs that even muddled waters even more. Like, that's what we watched at Occupy Wall Street. That's what we've watched in these protests. I've seen agent provocateurs. I've seen videos, and I've seen prosecutions against agent provocateurs in these things. The guy who burned down the fucking firehouse was just a dude. He was proven to be a cop. So you can say that you want peaceful protests, and I want peaceful protests too. The only problem is that at a certain point, those don't work. They just don't.
I mean, but can we get organized to the point where you hypothetically burn Target down? You know what I mean? Where it's like, okay, we're not going there.
Not local businesses. That's where the line is drawn on that.
Well, I talk more on local. Yeah, I much more against that on local businesses.
Well, I get what you're
of course
saying.
not.
It doesn't make sense to start a huge ass fire right in front of the art museum. Like that, of all the places, why that place? They're why not a bank? Why not, a police station, a government building? So many other buildings would make more sense than the art museum.
Well, I don't even think a government built like you should go after look up what businesses the Koch brothers own and burn those down.
And steal some PS5s to stop a genocide. I love it. It's a great idea. Let's do it.
Hey, that's another argument, is that we as an American society, we care more about products than people. And what is the almighty thing? Everybody says it that the money runs the world. So what do you have to do to hurt these people? You have to hurt their money revenue. We are an infinite growth society. We believe in infinite growth as a policy of economics, and you have to hurt that infinite growth. That's the only way you're going to do anything. I've watched people talk for since I've been alive, and nothing's changed. Not a single thing. Not the stats haven't gone down on the stats have gone down on violent crime overall, but I think that's just because we're becoming complacent in this society, and most people are comfortable enough to not commit violence.
Well, I'll say something just real quick about the stats. Stats are 100% manipulative. They manipulate them completely. And being in government and working with the police department, violent crime isn't up or down. It's whatever their agenda is at the moment and what they want to do. It's just like say assaults, like ag assaults, right? If you don't fill out a certain form that goes to the FBI NIBRs, it doesn't count against your crime stats. So if I go out and you've had the shit kicked out of you in an alley and you're like, I'm fucking going home. I don't want to deal with you. I'm not doing a report. If that report never gets done and doesn't go there, it doesn't go to crime stats.
Right.
It's like it never happened. Even though a call was made on it, you had police contact and you were there, and thousands of those in Denver happen a year.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
So, you know, the stats are always fun for me to look at because they're like, oh, murder's up 8,000%. Well, somebody went down and said, okay, hey, we're going to call all suicides murders from now on just for the NIBR's sake. And now murders are up 8,000%.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh my God. This is terrifying.
Oh, it's scary. Dude, and I'm telling you, and like, I don't know who knows it in here. Like, we're going to make an announcement real quick. I think Cory might know. I'm a Denver cop.
Yeah.
You know, I work in it, and I'm totally libertarian, and I am getting out of this job the day my retirement is available. You know what I mean? So if you have police questions, ask me questions.
This is why I'm glad that you were on here, because I did want to ask you that, like, what do you think about defunding the police? Like, because
defunding is the wrong word. I think defunding
the wrong word for a marketing sense, but I mean, as a plan to take that money and put it into social programs. What is your opinion on that?
I think they should. I think that police budgets are far too big for what they do. I think you need, you know, like the militarization of police. I think you need it to some extent because you see like the LA shooting and the Hollywood shooting, things like that. I don't think you need to be running around in a tank all the time, but there is going to be times people with body armors and weapons and things like that come out. But, you know, defunding probably needs to happen. I mean, I work with 13 to 15 people in Montbello. We're not busy in the mornings. The hood don't wake up till like noon. Like we're not doing it. We're not doing anything.
Makes sense.
You know what I mean? And my biggest issue with police work isn't the helping people. Like my Friday was yesterday. I went to a house. There was a 12-year-old girl with Down syndrome in the front yard playing with a knife. The woke ass white people on the street called 911 and said, there's a girl in the yard. She's playing with a knife. She's stabbing a tree, trying to stab herself, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, I'm the first one there. And it was a black girl. It was a 12-year-old black girl with Down syndrome. So I'm the first person there. It's my area. I hauled ass there. I just walked right up to her and was like, honey, give me the knife. And I told my partner that was showing up, Dion, I go, she can stab me. I'll take a little stab in the arm. We're just going to take it from her. And that was the plan. I go, she's not going to do much. We looked at her as like, if she decides she's going to do something to us, it's not going to kill me. Honey, give me the knife. I'm sorry, hands it to you. But if the wrong people show up or the wrong people in the neighborhood decide they're going to do something on their own, there's a tragic issue. And that's where I complain a lot about the mental health services in this country, where we have one clinician for half the city that does mental health stuff. And I'm sitting here on things like this where I'm like, hey, give me a mental health clinician. And they're like, oh, they're 45 minutes away. You know, and that's money that could be moved. I still need to be there because if that person really is dangerous, you need to be able to do what you got to do. But step one needs to be on the mental health side. So
continue.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, have you seen, because I saw something about how Denver is trying with a social service program that gets called instead of police. Have you seen that in action at all?
Yeah. We have the STAR program where mental health people are riding around. They ride around with the police and things like that. The problem is there's not enough of them.
Right.
And it's one of those things where I think it's partially new, so you're feeling it, but it's also pay. You know, if you're giving somebody 15, 14, 16 bucks an hour, how many people are going to sign up for a job where they're going and dealing with suicidal people that potentially could turn the corner into a bad area?
Well, I mean, and that's the argument for the entire way that we work in this country of we ask important jobs of people to not have a living wage.
Right.
And I think that's one of the biggest problems we have with the way that just everything feels lackluster. I don't know if you guys feel the same way. And I'm not talking about service industry people because they get fucked over more than everybody else.
Constantly.
They're actually the best. That's the most fucked up thing. The people that we pay the least, I've had the best experiences with for the most part. It's the people that, like, at my job, I work at the airport. I deal with international things. I deal with hazardous material. I deal with your guys' motherfucking mail. And I pay $15 an hour.
Right.
And you think that's fine. Or, well, you don't think that's fine, but people as a whole think that's fine.
Right. I mean, I don't know, what the answer is there, but I think that you have to look at the profit margins of a lot of businesses, and they can pay their people better. And to keep good people, you need to pay them. It's like the corrupt cops of NYPD through the 70s and 80s. The reason that they go to a drug house and steal, $50,000 off the table out of, $5 million is because they were getting paid $20,000 a year. So if you take somebody like where you're working, making $15 an hour, and an envelope of money comes through, say, you're not going to 100% everybody there be like, yeah, I'm good to go. No. Are they going to miss, $80,000 out of their suitcase when I open it up? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's not, I don't think people are inherently thieves, but I think a lot of people circumstantially are thieves.
Well,
I hate to use the word thief because that's so negative, but you know what I mean?
But that's what it is. It's a thieves of circumstance, like you're talking about. And I think that one of the, like I was talking about earlier with the infinite growth kind of thing, that's probably the biggest problem is that every company feels like they have to keep on growing when really what it should be is that there's more businesses in a smaller sense. Like I work for a place, Air General. They have 7 or 8 locations, but they're paying their workers very shitty, and they're giving them shitty hours, and they're having skeleton workforces. It should be condensed to like 3 places or 4 places, and then you pay those people well, and if you expand while still paying people well, that should be the incentivization.
Right. And if you go through like the Forbes top 100 businesses to work for and things like that, typically a vast majority of those businesses are exactly what you talked about. They're places that expand to the point that the people in charge make a good living, but they take care of their people.
Yeah.
And once you start expanding to the point where you're paying poverty wages, but you're the top of your class and your CEOs are making God knows what, everything goes downhill. And the people at top don't give a shit because by the time that guillotine, so to say, gets to them, they've already pocketed millions of dollars. That company could take a shit tomorrow. You're on your ass being evicted, and they're like, "Oh, I guess I have to sell my 4th house."
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
and it goes back to nobody's paid enough to care. And like you're talking about, with those social workers, they're paid $15 an hour.
Right.
What about like the people that drive those money trucks? They're paid $15 an hour.
Right.
Why would you give a shit if anybody came and stole you and robbed you? You would cooperate. You would just see a ski mask. You wouldn't even see the gun. You just see a ski mask. Be like, just take it off. Just here's the key to the truck. You can drive it away.
Right. And a good example of that is like paramedics and EMTs making $13, $14, $15 an hour. What's your incentive to risk something to save a life? When if you save it, but something goes wrong, you're going to be sued into the fucking ground.
And I love the argument.
You know what I mean?
That the people that get in those businesses are inherently good people, and they're just going to say like,
no, they're horrible.
No, well, they're not. They're not horrible. I know. I like
not all of them. You don't run into that many Mark Cubans though.
No, that's true. No, it is. I mean, we live in a society of financial survival. It's not about going and killing your own food. It's not about doing that. It's about making enough for rent and food and maybe some fun time. But that's it.
But the problem is that the system right now is set up for the rules to be for them to be successful. Yeah. And that's part of libertarianism is if you get rid of a lot of the regulations of capitalism and just kind of make it open capitalism, then you can go start the exact same business you work for. But you can't do it right now because the book is this thick to start that business. Yeah. And you don't got $200,000 to drop on this permit, this regulation, this, and this. And it's like Walmart, they can come out and say, you have lead paint, we don't want it no more. And they spend $2 million to repaint their building, but they go to mom and pop's, little store, and they might have to pay $30,000 to repaint. Well, that busts them for the year and they're done.
Yeah.
But Walmart can absorb it and lobby for big laws to keep the mom and pops out of business. And that's really the issue is you can get well in this country, but if somebody wants to crush you, they will crush you in a second.
So the argument against that, and I see
No, go for it.
But the argument against that is that, I mean, and this is all dreamy thinking, but like what subsidies should be for is for those things. Subsidies shouldn't be for Walmart or these oil companies.
No, hell no, not at all.
The thing is that the subsidies should be for getting mom and pop businesses to the standard that you shouldn't have lead paint.
Yeah.
You should be able to repaint your fucking store if it has lead paint.
Right.
And then we say you shouldn't have lead paint. We should subsidize you to get that fucking lead paint, but instead we take that subsidy money and we put it to this bullshit. And
I agree.
I think that's the dichotomy that libertarians and socialists need to come to, is that, like, I'm not saying you do, but I know that a lot of libertarians like to think that socialists just want things, when really what we want is we want the taxpayer dollars that already are being spent. Like I pay my taxes, and those taxes go to 90% of things that I don't want, and things that not only do I not want, but I'm vehemently against as a philosophical, as a moral thing. Like these billion-dollar companies getting subsidies is ridiculous, and those subsidies should go to something to help bring up the little guy. And almost you can't look at a time in history that these corporations, and I say corporations, everything from the East India Company all the way to now to Walmart, that have not been helped by government.
Okay, time out though. That may mean that as voters, we've been neglecting our duties.
You're duh. Yeah, that's
okay.
That's where it always comes back to, is that you should be participating in your democracy more, and nobody cares about local politics as much as national politics. And local politics do affect you more, but at the same time, federal politics do affect you. Like, people like to say, "Oh, when's the last time federal, regulations affected me?" You know who pays attention to your federal regulations? Your landlord, your boss, your union head. Like, these people are the people that pay attention. Your bankers, they pay attention to the federal laws more than anybody else. Right. Wall Street people. I mean, when just look, like, if you want to look at how federal politics are coming into law, think about how the private prison stock went up like 10 points when Kamala Harris was put as VP. If you want to see how, like, causation to causality kind of shit like that, they know what's coming. They know what social things and how we're going to go back to imprisoning people for bullshit.
I got you, and I agree with you on the thing, like the bailout. You didn't have to send $600 million to whatever corporation they did.
No.
Why would you not take care of the mom and pops? It's just like the stimulus with Corona. 90% of it went to corporations. Nothing went to the people to help them. If you're going to spend tax money, directly help people. I mean, I've said from the beginning, as much as I am against taxes and things like that, it's the system we live in right now. No one should get a hospital bill for having Corona. No one. No. You should be able to, that should be part of the stimulus, is you go to the hospital, you go, I tested positive, this is your treatment plan, you will not have a bill at the end. Even if it's just that, and that's not a socialized medicine or anything, but that's, at least in that respect, no one should have a bill for something that, the government has bumblefucked in, getting people sick.
Well, I mean, they should have gotten that before the government bumblefucked it, but you're right. Like, like that. I mean, so what's the difference between that and capitalism caused cancer? Like, what's the difference between that and living in a what do they call them? Sacrifice districts. You know what I mean? Like those industrial places where you have, or what's the difference between that and living in Flint, Michigan?
Flint's a whole other thing. That shit should have been fixed years ago. But
what I'm saying is
I get what you're saying.
Caused by, like, in this state, actually, I'm not even talking about Flint. In this state, Grand Junction, where I'm from, the mesa where we get our water, where I got my water, it has a high over toxic amount of, I'm trying to remember the chemical, but it's a toxic chemical for human beings, and they've shown that it is that. What's going to happen with that town? I know that town is a very conservative town, and they're not going to vote for that, and you're going to be seeing people drop dead because of that stuff. Not now, not tomorrow, but in like 10, 15 years, you're going to see some weird cancer of like the nuts and the fucking Gucci and all that shit.
And it's a totally side note on the, like the healthcare and things like that, but I think we really need to address why it's so expensive. I think that's the first key to getting everybody covered is why can I go to Greece and get a hip replacement 10 times and live there for 10 years for the cost that it costs to get one here?
I mean,
You know, medicine for profit is one of the biggest evils we've ever had in this country. Like, period. You
yeah, I
know?
mean, like, what's the corona treatment? It's $10 to make, and it's like $3,000 for one thing. Yeah,
Right.
right.
You know,
it is a profit margin of when people say like I got a profit margin of 500% on that. That's ridiculous.
Right.
I don't understand that economic model. Why you think you can get away with that? And I get the supply demand stuff, but like there's a certain not even ethics point, just sustainability point for more than just you.
right.
And people will take advantage of that more than anything else.
I mean, if they get the chance to fuck over the people, they will fuck over the people.
Yeah.
Just period. And that's the thing is, I think, and part of that is I think there's a certain level of narcissism that gets to you being that high in society. And you know, it's like the dude with the EpiPens. That dude raised them from, you know, like $80 to like $1,000 or whatever. And they go, why did you do that? And he's just like, because I fucking can and I want a yacht.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, what mental condition goes with not only being successful at that level, and I not only want to say successful, but just making money at that level that causes you to be okay to crush people.
But don't you see how capitalism incentivizes that kind of?
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
But my hope is that if it's unvetted, that the lower person that isn't at that level yet can slit his fucking throat and start catching up and do better in society. You start replacing the people with better people if they have the opportunity to get that high.
But the problem with that is that those lower people even, especially in an if you're going to talk about unfettered capitalism where you can just do whatever the fuck you want, almost every time you see that corporations will take full advantage of that, and you will not get it's the same problem that I've seen in police precincts where the chief doesn't hire or doesn't promote anybody who doesn't meet arrest quotas. It's the same thing in a company. You're not gonna just because this dude's ethical doesn't mean that he is gonna get the same sales as this guy who's working at Wells Fargo and he opens up fraudulently. I'm gonna do that guy, and that's the problem with just because people are assholes. Like aren't good. What's the number one argument everybody has against socialism? It's the worst parts of socialism: Stalinism, Maoism, all those kinds of things. Venezuela, these authoritarian socialist countries. But you have a corporate capitalist authoritarian country that we live in right now. That's what we live in. We live. It's not government authoritarianism. It's corporate authoritarianism that tells the government how to authoritarianize everybody through low wages, through subsidizing them, through subsidizing laws that they want to pass to help people that they can't because corporations are like that would cut into our profit margin. Like cigarettes were the biggest proponent of that, and everybody that wants to push that. But oil companies are that times 10. They did their own climate change studies 20, 30 years ago and then squashed it and
No, and I don't disagree with that. And my thing is, in my libertarian views, I think there's things that are wishful and things that are realistic. So I don't think we're in a society right now where taxes can go all the way away. I don't think we're in a society where we can just open up the governor on business. But I do wish that I could go back 100 years where maybe we set a standard where it was a little more fair and a little more you know what I mean? Before it got out of control.
Travel back in time anymore.
Well, but on the other hand, though, like you say, travel back in time where it was more fair. But like if you travel back in time to pretty much any time period, I don't have a shot anymore. I'm fucked. I'm out of the conversation completely.
Yeah, the people on the bottom of the screen don't have anything. Cal has more of a chance of owning a corporation than Megan does 100 years ago.
Yeah. And I don't mean, and I really don't want anybody to take that I meant like, you know, marginalized groups or women or anybody in certain communities to go back to the way it was. Like, it's not the Make America Great Again speech. I just mean, I wish everybody had equal rights, and we could be like, hey, you can build what you can build, and the right support systems are there in the loans. Like, I wish we could go through and eliminate, the red areas of the cities with the mortgage laws with the black community and things like that.
I wish,
Where you couldn't buy a house in a certain neighborhood.
actually, that's interesting. I wish more conservative people would frame it like that. That if we could go back 100 years, 100 years ago, change everything, be as socially liberal as we are now, and then just see how the fiscally conservative part of that society would be.
Right.
That's actually an interesting argument, because if you could take away all the societal woes of back then, would it be better? But the problem is that you'd almost have to change so much about that society that, like, the closest one you could probably go to and say that about was like FDR times. If you could change if you could go from the New Deal to now with all the societal goodness, like, what would it be? Because anything before that, child labor, boom, all those bad, ridiculous things.
I like how you put that, though. Yeah, keep today's more liberal societal views, but be more fiscally conservative, maybe, in a way. I like how you put that in terms of because I think that's where I kind of fall. I would never in a million years want women's rights to go away. I don't believe in telling women what to do about abortion. I don't believe in telling people what they can do with their bodies, whether it's, going through changes or things like that. It's on you.
Thank you for speaking for me, Patrick. Oh my gosh.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just saying I shouldn't have an opinion on what you should do. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, good.
So his
come on.
opinion is that he has no opinion, in other words.
Yes. Other than to say, do what you got to do. That's my only opinion, is do what you have to do.
Alex, can you still speak on women's rights, or were you like friend zoned on that?
Well, so from what I've been told, I have a very specific role, which is to talk to the types of guys that are the worst of the worst, who won't listen to Megan at all. They just automatically are like, she doesn't have fuck all to say, but for some fucked up reason, they'll listen to me. That's basically where I fit. Because I can trick that guy into not knowing that I experienced some of the shit I'm talking about firsthand, Because that's the thing. I did experience a lot of shit firsthand, but the way I see it, like, my job now is to be the best possible guy I can be and set a good example for other guys, because I have experienced the worst of what guys have to offer,
Right. Yeah. It's like when you're like a gay dude who grows up in a conservative family. You've seen the worst of what they can be.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. See, that actually like backs up a bit that I'm doing right now. That douchebag guys will still listen to a trans man more than women because they know that they picked the better team.
Well, but the thing is, also, they might not necessarily know that I'm a trans guy.
No, yeah.
They might see me and read me as like I get read a lot as like an emo boy or a flamboyant gay guy.
Right.
Neither of those is 100% wrong, but like people, that kind of guy doesn't necessarily look at me and think, oh, that guy was assigned female at birth.
Yeah.
They see me as some sort of queer. They don't know what that is necessarily, but like.
Because I met you before I saw you on stage, and I didn't know that you were trans at all. You're pretty much a dude.
So like they will listen to a trans guy more than a woman, provided they don't actually know that I'm trans. Once they find out, if they find out that I'm trans, then suddenly, I've lost the privilege points, so to speak, and I'm now,
Oh, it's literally like it's like an arcade game. The moment you say you're trans, you're just like the HP goes down real quick. That's fucked up.
But yeah, that's what's crazy about it, is that a guy will, if a guy doesn't know that I'm trans, the way he treats me changes completely to when he does know that I'm trans. If he's a shitty guy, if he's a decent sort of guy, it doesn't change. Right, it didn't change with like any of you, for instance, but like, there's this guy who owns a B&B relatively like a couple blocks away from where I live. Trump supporter. He has no idea I'm trans. He fucking loves me. But I just know the instant he found out, suddenly, I just know it. So
You gotta wait until he like wants you to buy you a Christmas present or something and be like, hey, I'm not gonna buy you a gift. I'm trans. Let your mind be blown. How do you feel like let me ask you a question like seriously, like how do you feel treatment in society is? Do you feel like people treat you shittier before you transitioned or after?
So that question has two answers, which also depends on whether they know I'm trans or not.
Okay.
So when I'm being read as a cis guy, then all across the board, without fail, most people treat me better. Even the most like militant of feminists tend to treat me better because even though they're reading me, even if they're reading me as a cis guy, they're seeing me as the cis guy with the Madonna shirt and the purple hair, whatever. Like,
yeah.
So that's the thing, is that like people do treat me better pretty much all over the map, but sometimes that changes when they find out that I'm trans. Then suddenly, like, there are some people who will treat me better once they find out that I'm trans, but like, it's a very small minority of people.
Mm-hmm.
Most people, though, like, it's just, well, it's not so much that they'll treat me like shit. It's that there are certain things that they just don't quite understand about me. So, like, for instance, there are certain guys who can't help it, and I know they can't help it, but they get weird around me. Like, if they see me in the men's room, they get weird. And they don't want to be getting weird, but they do.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I feel like that happens not just to trans guys, but to guys that are part of the LGBT community in general. And I happen to be both a B as well as a T. So like, I feel like there's definitely some weirdness that happens once people find out about me that's sometimes not there before they find out about me.
Right.
That makes sense. And like for me, growing up, I grew up in a very small town on a farm. Like our town didn't even have black people. Like I didn't meet black people till I got to the military and things like that. So I can understand where that awkwardness in trying to figure stuff out. I'm 38 now. I'm almost 39. I've been around literally every human being that you can imagine. So, and I've dealt, I've talked to Cory. We've been around each other. I'm very laid back when it comes to things like that. Yeah. Sometimes I'm just curious and I don't know how to ask. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of times that I'm just like, I never get nervous or weird, but I'm just like, how the fuck do I ask this person this question? Whether it's, it's something in the trans community or the gay community or it's women or whatever. And as a straight dude that's very small town farm boy, I don't ever want to come across as offensive when I try to ask you a question or anybody a question. So like, how do you prefer if somebody asks you, has like a weird question to approach
My
you?
standpoint is always 100% then that I would rather be asked the question than have somebody assume that they already know the answer and act accordingly.
Okay.
That's
Always.
the part,
But if the question is something that is a little bit, if it's awkward for you to ask, that means it probably will be a bit awkward for me to answer. Chances are. So then it's just about, I'd rather like ask me privately, whether that be like in a private message or privately, like in person, whatever the case is. But like, like it's like there's certain questions where it's like, what like people, like there have been guys who've asked me what are very awkward questions in public Facebook posts, like on their own like Facebook timeline, where the question is its own post. It's not even a comment, it's its own post.
Oh geez. Okay.
And they've done it in some cases it's like very obvious that like the language that they used was just so like, fucked up, where it's like, this guy is trying to fuck with me.
There's little snideness to it. Yeah.
But like there's other times where it's like, I can tell this guy's intentions are in a good place, but my God, like, do I wish he'd asked me this in private message,
Yeah, I do agree. I think that's a good point, because I think that 99% of stuff, if asked in private, will not be offensive and understand it, to where if you're making a spectacle about it, whether it's on Facebook or around a group of people, I think most of the time when you ask something really kind of off the wall in a group of people, whether it's social media or not, you're trying to get a reaction out of not only you, but more people around it. And I think if you're cool with somebody, you can take them to the side and be like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. What does that word mean? You know what I mean? And get a realistic answer out of it and be cool about it. You know?
I think because I've definitely had like I mean, it's not to the extent of Alex because he has a whole different moniker to go on, but just the fact when I mentioned Trey, when I'm just like saying, oh, this is my boyfriend, like things like that. There is always a moniker of questions that come up from people, and you can definitely tell, like when because I personally don't have a problem with like people asking me in a group of, but most of the time when people ask me a group of people, it's a group of comics, so I'm already comfortable.
Right.
So that's like different than just like say you're at work and then you tell one person and he in the group of all the workers wants to ask you this really awkward question. That's totally different.
You get cornered at lunch and the questions start flying.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I've had those moments, and those are uncomfortable. I'm used to uncomfortable moments, but that's just me. I almost thrive in uncomfortable moments just because of like I'm like Patrick. I came from a small town, and I moved. It wasn't like I came from Utah, like white. And if it wasn't for me moving to New Mexico, I'd probably be a lot more ignorant than I am now. Like I was raised around a bunch of Mexicans and natives, and not really that many black people, but like just the fact that I had some people of color that told me how they're treated differently in these things. It gave me the ability to see them as just not different, but like they had a different experience. You know what I mean? And so it always gave me so much empathy to any minority that had a different experience. Like before I realized of who I was and that I was bi and that like I was still like into guys. Like I had a huge amount of empathy for LGBTQ people of any kind, just for the sole fact of just like, yeah, you have a different experience. Like you have the potential to be kicked out of your household if you say who you are in your household. Like that's beyond everything else. That's the most fun, and that's in every minority group. That's not just a white thing. That's LGBTQ is different in the most sense that it affects all races. Like there are gay people and trans people of all races, and they all have to deal. And the crazy thing is that when it comes, this is another statistic assumption, but like minorities are a lot more religious than whites when it comes to just like, there's a lot more atheist white people than there are atheist minorities, and that comes from struggle. Religion always comes from struggle and things like that. And so I've seen a lot more minority LGBTQ people turned away than white ones, because like especially, I mean, for the sole fact of just like money. Like white people that have an LGBTQ person in their household, they can still support, whereas like I could see from a minority point of view, if you're poor, and that's also the other thing. Almost all the time when I see white people kicked out of their household for being LGBTQ, it's poor people kicking them out because they get that logic of just like, oh, I don't want to fucking feed this monster and shit like that, and it affects all of them.
Well, I mean, I'll say just from police work and seeing it be in people's homes and that, it's absolutely true. And families always are way more likely to kick a gay or trans person out of their home than a child molester. They'll protect the child molester all day and then kick somebody out, and it's like, okay, so you want to do this with your life. I love you, stay at home. They'll kick them out, but you get Uncle Billy tittle fucking the fucking kids in the backyard, and they won't even call the cops.
Yeah, exactly. And that's such a weird dichotomy that people have in just like, I don't get how, I still don't get to this day how I can get how the act of homosexual intercourse grosses some people out, but the emotional part of it, that's the part that I don't understand, that people that people are so, I can understand that you don't like butt sex. I know straight people that won't fuck women in the ass because they're grossed out by butt sex. So for you to be grossed out by dudes fucking each other in the ass, that's perfectly acceptable to me.
Right.
What isn't acceptable to me is that you don't understand how one dude can love another dude.
Right.
You were in the Army, Patrick. I bet there's dudes that you
Yeah.
fucking love that you would say that
Yeah.
you're like not in love with, but you love to a certain
Right.
extent. You would take
Right.
it for a motherfucker.
Oh,
I know
yeah.
people like that in my personal life, so I don't get how people can't see how that can transition into a companionship.
Right.
Cuddles.
Right. I don't know how people can not understand how people can love each other, no matter what their feelings are inside. And even being raised extremely conservative, and where I'm from, I'm a firm believer that you are hardwired the way you are.
Yeah.
And you just love who you love, and it's not my business. And like you said, I can be like, I don't get butt sex, but I can still look at you and go, man, you two love each other. Who am I to say you shouldn't, or be in the way, or affect your life? I'm not hanging out on the chair in your bedroom watching. You know what I mean? And hanging out. You guys are on your own.
You're not enforcing
your
the
thing.
laws in Missouri. I get it, man.
Right. Yeah.
No, yeah, it's really weird how people. Well, and that's probably the biggest hypocrisy that I see from that side. At least, like, and actually, that's the biggest hypocrisy from both sides. That both sides say that just do you, just do whatever you want, unless it's something that I don't like.
Right.
Both sides do that. It's just for different things. Conservatives do it for homosexuality, and they do it for abortions, and they do it for trans people. Liberals do it for saying something that they don't enjoy, and these are things that I don't enjoy a lot of the times, but at the same time it's still hypocrisy.
Right. Yep.
And there are certain like what Patrick, what is something that you could see somebody getting canceled for
that I would want somebody to be canceled for? Or
like not put in jail, that something is just that they should get canceled for, not that they're put in jail.
Oh man, not a whole hell of a lot, but I think like if you were vehemently hateful towards someone, like if you went up on stage and you were like, you know what, I think all F words should die, I fucking hate them, kill yourself, and you're encouraging some sort of behavior like that. Yeah, I think that's something where, but I think as a culture we should cancel them. I don't think it should. I don't get people, and I've said this with like gay friends that I'm extremely close to. We can joke around. It's where it comes from. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like my buddy John I work with all the time. I'm like, would you hit that? And he's like, oh, I'd suck the fucking shit out of his dick. You know what I mean? But it's a joke amongst us.
I feel it's they've accepted who I am, and they make jokes about it.
And I've always said, the more comfortable you are with who you are, the better you are taking jokes that aren't meant to be hateful. Yeah. If you are 100%, you're like, fucking, I'm bi, I've got a boyfriend, life goes on. Then as friends, we can joke more, and you're not going to be uncomfortable with the jokes because you're still going to be with him that night, no matter what anybody says. And I'm not trying to hurt your feelings, or no one's trying to hurt your feelings, especially as comics. We sit around and drink too much, and people say stupid shit. But as long as it doesn't come from, a real hateful place in their heart, I think there's a line that shouldn't be crossed, but there's also a line that we can butt up to that as friends we can joke about and have fun with.
Yeah, I think most of the time you can have teaching moments other than having, because like this is the way that I've looked at this cancel culture stuff, is that you're doing the same exact thing, not to the extent, but I'm going with the most harshest example. You're doing the same thing as our army bombing like innocent people in the Middle East. Right. You're just creating more extremists. That's what that's doing. It's not helping the cause. Canceling this person is just going to make them turn to their base. They're not going. It's not like they're going to get canceled. It's the same thing as when you see a fucking billboard of just don't be your girlfriend. It's not like the woman beater is going to see that and be like, oh man, I shouldn't have.
Oh, I guess I'm doing something else tonight. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. It's not like that's going to, I got canceled for saying an African joke on Twitter. Yeah. I'm going to go on CSNBC.
No, and I like that. I agree with that. I think if we try to educate first before cancel is, sometimes you can take, it's even like open mics and shows. If somebody tells a joke that's probably not great, instead of just writing them out of the community, like somebody take them to the side and be like, yo, venue, man, time and place.
Okay, so what if you do that and then they just don't accept it?
I think if they
That's
continue
what
to
happened with
be,
John W. That's the exact thing that happened with John W. He came, he said some really offensive stuff. We all, me personally, tried to like put him to the side and be like, yo, bro, I get what you're trying to do and trying to be edgy and all this bullshit, but like,
yeah.
just like have a moniker. And then he came with Offend Lisa and he dressed up as a trailer trash Katy Perry.
Oh God. Yeah.
So
But
like.
I don't think that's people canceling them. That's canceling yourself. I think people have a choice of who they book and things like that, and who they pay attention to, and who they're willing to pay money to see. If you're going to be on that level, I don't think you even have to be like, let's not have this guy around, because everybody's just going to automatically go, fuck that dude.
Yeah.
If he comes to an open mic, light him at 30 seconds and let him bitch. You know what I mean? Like,
I actually would like to see that more. Just an offensive comics being lit right after 30 seconds.
Yeah,
just like half a bit out.
Yeah, there was a show I saw in Portland. It was called the Gong Show.
Yeah.
So they had a big gong, and 3 people from the crowd, if they went up and rang it, you were done.
Mm-hmm.
So they'd set it up there, and like some people, like literally in like 90 seconds, bong, bong, bong.
Oh, done.
They cut your mic. Yeah.
I remember David Gamble tried to do that here. He was in control, so it sucked.
Yeah, see, you can't have it where it's like the host is in control.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have like people in the crowd willing to run up there and just go bong, bong, bong. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no, I mean, you walk there, and there's some stuff like that guy, and you know, what's his nuts? I can't remember his kid's name that just says crazy shit all the time. That's pretty much been written out.
Right.
I can't remember his name, but I think.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say the name.
No, but I think you eventually cancel yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's where I look at it is the one time you say something, as long as it's not the N-word or, you know, something horrible towards the gay community or trans community that you're like, I'm angry about this and I'm going to blah, 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 blah. Then you get that opportunity to correct your behavior and somebody to talk to you. But if you're like, you know what, I'm just going to piss everybody off and just keep doing it, you just cancel yourself.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to get booked, you know?
So, okay. So I want to ask this question to you two, you three. What do you guys think is a cancelable offense? Like I said, no jail, just cancel. Because like that's where everybody's like kind of asking where the line is right now, because there are certain people that get canceled for things they shouldn't get canceled for. Like they're fuck. What was the last person to get canceled?
I think it has to be on. It's got to be on a Mike. It's got to be on a Michael Richards level.
Yeah.
You know, something like that.
Well,
Yeah.
so of course, J.K. Rowling's been consistently getting more and more canceled pretty much this season. Like, that's been a theme.
That's true. Yeah. Okay. I forgot about that. Yeah. She's because I've literally blocked that out because I just want to play the new Harry Potter video game. That's the only reason I haven't paid attention to it. I have a soft spot in my heart for that bolted-headed bastard.
Did you imagine if Harry Potter came out like 20 years ago and it was like Legend of Zelda? Like that's how you're playing Harry Potter. You're just around it. I found the sword. 8 lines of fucking tip.
I'm trying to remember, Alex. What was the most offensive thing J.K. Rowling said? Because I know that she said women are women and that's it. That's the only thing.
So she's a perfect example of somebody who's getting canceled where I'm in full agreement about it. And I say this as somebody who grew up with Harry Potter, who, like, I literally have my, like, fucking Slytherin pajama bottoms still. Like, I love what she created, and that will never change. Yeah. But I'm pissed at her right now because, basically, so she wrote this whole essay, this whole long-ass fucking essay. Like, she spent time on this fucker. And the whole thesis statement of this thing was about the importance of biological sex, right? And she created this false sort of straw man argument, this idea that somehow the transgender community doesn't think that there's such thing as biological sex. And she took down this straw man argument. And basically, it was, like, if you look at the whole thing, it was just very turfy, and it made it very clear that she doesn't actually think of trans women as women at all, but as men that are trying to access women's spaces. And then
you can just call yourself
she dug in. Well, and then she dug into this thing, like she dug herself deeper in because she released this book like a few months after that, where one of the characters is this murderer who like who is a transvestite who kills people. So literally a man in a dress trying to access women's spaces in order to commit acts of violence, which like, well, it's kind of like now to like to bring the sort of metaphor back, kind of, it's sort of like how the idea of trans women specifically being men dressed up as women trying to access women's spaces in order to commit predatory acts, that's like the number one sort of thing that, like, that's the number one bane of the existence of trans women. That is the like pervasive idea that they are haunted by, that they have to do everything to get away from through no fault of their own. It's just what people assume. Trans guys, we don't have really anything like that. There's not really anybody who thinks that we're like, you know, spying, trying to access men's spaces for any sort of nobody really thinks trans guys are doing, you know, that's just, it's not really a thing that's said. But basically, when a person, when somebody goes off on trans women in that way, it's pretty clear what they think about trans guys, which is, you know, like, because if a trans woman is not a real woman, that means that, you know, she's not going to see me as a real man either. Right. She's probably going to see me as some unfortunate girl who lost their way or whatever. And it's like, no, I'm definitely a guy. I'm a very sort of extra kind of bisexual guy who likes Madonna and colorful, pretty things. But like, I'm very much a guy, and I'm confident in that. And like, there are cis guys that are a lot like me, you know, and that's the thing, is that like, I do believe that she deserves to be canceled for this because she's made it such a thing. It's not just some tweet she sent out once. Like, she wrote a whole essay and then a whole ass book. Like, right. And the timing of the book is such that she released it after she got in trouble. So it's a pretty clear, you know, fuck you.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Things that come from a place of hate, that much effort, it isn't her sending a tweet that may be poorly worded of something. It's an effort of her trying to belittle the community. You know, you wrote a whole fucking book about it.
Book of transphobia. You
right? Yeah.
So that's actually interesting because so I feel like people look at trans men in like the same way that they look at like lesbians. Like they're almost they're medially acceptable. Like nobody really thinks about lesbians more. Like, people think about gay men way more than they think about lesbians, and people think about trans women way more than they think about gay men until they're in their vicinity, like their exact vicinity. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that the reason for that is actually sociological, in terms of a concept we refer to as passability, cis passability.
Right.
So just the way hormone replacement therapy works, more often than not, when a trans guy has been on T for a while, he's able to sort of fit seamlessly into guy culture without anyone really being able to notice it about him. Like, basically the ability for me to be stealth, like the number of people that I brush past in the world who just take for granted that I was born in a boy's body, you know, with a penis and a Y chromosome and all that great shit, you know, like, they just assume that based on, you know, the way I look, the way I talk, etc. Now, a lot of trans women don't have that luxury because estrogen just, it doesn't do certain things. Like, it won't make your voice, you know, higher. It won't.
Adam's apple isn't going away with estrogen.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas I did grow one with testosterone. So that's the thing, is that like
I didn't know that.
a lot of times I think trans guys aren't part of the conversation because it's easier for trans guys to choose not to be. Like,
Right.
hypothetically,
That's
I
the
could have
thing.
never opened my mouth. I could have been, you know, just another guy in the Denver comedy scene. But like, I wanted to transition publicly, you know, I wanted to include the world in that because it was important to me. But hypothetically, like I could just be some, you know, I could just be another, you know, shaggy haired twink on Broadway easily.
Have you gone? So this is a question because I do this because I'm straight passing as fuck. Nobody knows. Nobody would even guess that I suck dick. Any of that stuff. Do you go to jobs and not tell anybody?
Well, I don't.
I do that. I go any job I go to. I definitely don't tell them that I am in a homosexual relationship.
I wouldn't.
want to think of them like denying the job because of that, and just
Right.
find another excuse why.
I wouldn't. Damn.
I disclose it for two reasons. One, there's to me, well, it's a different scenario because, say for instance, the employer is covering my insurance.
Oh, right.
And like the transgender thing has a medical component to it. Or like, to put it this way, like there is a chance that I would literally need to, you know, miss work because I have, you know, appointments with a literal gynecologist because, you know, post-surgical checkups or whatever. Like the amount of lying that I would have to do in order to be stealth, I don't find it worth it, first of all. But also, I would not want to work for the type of company that wouldn't hire me based on that and that alone. Right. I wouldn't want to be in a situation where my job was contingent on me being, you know, cis passing, because hypothetically that all goes out the window if like one of my buddies comes to visit me and accidentally has a moment of calling me by the wrong pronoun or name for a second. And then suddenly, you know, that's the thing, is that like when you're stealth, you could lose all of that in a second. And then your whole world changes. Where if you disclose your transness from the beginning, it's like that's part of it. But also, like, I have a German studies degree from Smith College. Like, so Smith College technically is a women's college. So like, it's like either I have a fake college degree or I'm trans, you know?
Interesting. Yeah, I never thought about it from that point of view, because I can just not say anything, and yeah, I it's perfectly fine. That's interesting. Yeah,
right. But like, say you were in a situation where like you guys were gonna get married and you had some sort of benefits that were gonna pass to him or vice versa, then suddenly it would become part of the conversation, you know?
100%. Yeah, you're 100% right about that. Megan, do you ever tell any employees who did not want to do the job? Megan? I just want your opinion on what we're talking about.
You're like,
Who
Megan,
is texting right now? Jesus.
You're like, Megan, would you tell people you're a girl when you apply for a job?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I get like called a dude, so I gotta set that straight.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
Yeah. But I mean, I wear my hair like low and tight. I just could be like a dude with like a classy man bun.
I got a sergeant at work whose voice is kind of low for a female, and she gets called sir on the radio constantly and loses her fucking mind. And I feel bad. And she's like, it's ma'am. She's like the dude that was in the store. Like, it's ma'am. It's like, they should know by now. We only have like 2 dispatchers. Like, they should know who she is. You know?
Jesus. Yeah, that's bad. Like, there was one time, like, I managed to get away with it pretty well, like at the academy. You know, freshman year is supposed to suck, but I got away with it one night. I'm like wearing my backpack and walking back to my dorm, trying to go unnoticed, but then there's a freshman like doing the right thing, trying to stop and say good
Always
evening.
a fucking freshman.
Yeah, some other, like one of my classmates is like trying to do the right thing. It's like, good evening, sir. Ma'am. I'm like, fuck off. I'm already messing this all up.
That starts a whole other sad world that covering up like a male and travel around the academy is much safer for you than being a female. Like, that's a sad fucking reality that we live in with the sex assaults and stuff that went on down at the academy.
Oh my God. No, like the real bad part was like the football team would have like a recent graduate working as, the prep school coach or something like that. And so he would have a house on campus or like on base. So the football players would all go throw parties there, and they had like, their separate punch bowls.
Yeah.
It was just, terrible. So good thing I wasn't popular.
You're popular now, Megan. All right. Well, back to the other question, Megan.
Yeah.
What do you think is somebody cancelable for?
I don't know. I guess just stupid people, really.
That's everybody.
You just canceled all of Denver comedy.
Yeah. No, you
Right,
can't.
shut off the fucking cameras. We're done. It's over. No more shows.
You canceled both political candidates, the entire Senate and the House, all the Supreme Court justices. Like, you can't.
Why? Why not? That's what I want.
Hey, you and Bill Burr have the same stance. I understand. No,
Well, what's your definition of stupid here?
For me,
it's not Stephen Hawking or Einstein is who I consider stupid. Most 90% of people are stupid. We just exist off of the facts of actual smart people that create things for us to be comfortable.
See, I see stupid very specifically as a person who's not able to learn. Like, if a person like has a momentary fuck up, and then they're like, shit, I fucked up. Next time I won't do this, that, the other. I will do this, that, and the other. And shit, I know why I'm the asshole. That person's not stupid. But the person
talking about somebody who can't socially learn, because people that can't socially learn are great at being car mechanics. I'll tell you that right now.
So much more optimistic.
They are great plumbers, electricians.
Right, but I'm just saying,
Waiters,
my working definition of stupid is an inability to learn. There's different contexts for that, like
socially learning,
unable to learn,
like not able to, but that's what I'm saying is that, like, that's why I think most people are stupid, is that there's people that can socially learn and there's people that can mechanically learn or workily learn. I can socially learn. I fucking hate working learning, and I know a bunch of people that suck at social learning, and they own their own business. So, like, that's why I think most people are stupid. That the people that we rely upon that give us the things that make us comfortable can socially learn and mechanically learn, and they put that together, and those are very few and far between people.
Oh yeah, you're right there. But I guess what I'm saying is to the guy who can't socially learn as well as he can,
Workly
learn in the way of whatever his work is, whatever he gravitates towards. There's always a way for the guy like you or the guy like me who are better, more adept at socially learning to explain to the guy on terms that he's more equipped to understand where he fucked up, and he'll get it. That's the thing, is his capacity to get it. Like, it might take different types of explanations to get him there. But, like, to me, like Charles Manson, very stupid. He literally doesn't get what he did wrong. No matter how anyone explained it to him, his own cognition impaired his ability to ever learn.
Ideology is what you're talking about, I guess, is the thing of, I know I'm right because I'm right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, there are, I mean, there are people in that in all senses, but I mean, it definitely is more the ignorant people socially who the damage is done through.
So what you're saying is Trump is your stupid line.
No, because Trump is way like here's Trump, here's my line.
Yeah.
They're very close, but no. Because Joe Biden's like right here.
Yeah.
And Kamala Harris is like right here.
I laughed so hard when Trump shared the Babylon Bee article. That was my favorite day ever.
I'm done laughing. I've been laughing for 3.5 years. I'm done laughing these past.
I was like, wow.
This is sad.
So let me ask you this then, Alex. How many chances or what learning curve do you think there is for that? Is it like the first time you tell somebody, hey, that was kind of not cool, and they go, oh, fuck it, and they do it again, but the second time they start getting it? I mean, do you give like a little window for people to try to learn, or is it like you need to realize the first time you did this that you fucked up and start from there?
Well, I mean, to put it this way, if I explain to this same guy in the exact same way twice where and how he fucked up, then I'm the one who's stupid. So learning goes both ways, right? So it's on him to, you know, try to understand and improve, but it's also on me to make him get it. So that's what I'm saying. It's sort of a person's inability to understand what I say the first time I say it, my first attempt at explaining it, that's not necessarily them being stupid or me being stupid. But if I then explain it again in a different way, and not only are they not getting it, but they're not even trying to get it. If their response is not, I don't get it, but their response is, fuck you, that's what I guess I'm talking about. Like,
okay,
you tell Donald Trump he's wrong, his response is going to be, fuck you.
Right.
Yeah.
You tell, you know, Bernie Sanders he's wrong, his response would have been more like, let's talk about this shit then. Okay, let's get it out there. Tell me where you're coming from, you know?
Yeah.
I got you. That's what I was curious about, what your personal line was for, I'm going to give this person time, or I'm just going to cut them off immediately because they're not getting it, you know?
I think.
Well, I mean, there is a certain line of the type of thing that they could be saying where it's just like, okay, I my patience is at its end. So like, somebody saying to me like, oh, for instance, like, oh, I used to think that trans boys didn't exist, but only trans girls did. It's like, that's a little bit cringy, and I don't think that's like the world's smartest thing to say. But to me, that's very different than a person going around being like, oh, well, I'm just going to call you she and her because trans boys don't exist and only trans girls do.
Right.
So, like,
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Speaking of ignorance, while I have you here, Alex, I wanted to ask you, are there stereotypes for trans men?
Oh my God, yes. And there's the stereotypes.
I don't know any. I want to know what the stereotypes are because I have no idea what the fuck they are.
So there's the stereotypes that are projected onto trans men from outside of that community, and then the ones that are like sort of from the LGBT community. So I think what a lot of people expect from trans guys in general is that we're going to try to be like the most like aggro masculine, like basically like stereotypical manly men we possibly can.
You're gonna
like
your teeth. I get it.
Wrangler jeans, trucker caps, flannels, like anything that's supposed to be for girls is not for me. Like that's and they think we're all straight as well, that we all only ever want to fuck girls and only ever in specific kinds of ways. Like, so that's really the main stereotype, is that like we're all trying to be as like masculine and manly as we possibly can. But like obviously like that's not, you know, the case here. Like so like I'm, you know, like I'm bisexual. I don't like football. I do love Broadway. Like I just that's the thing, is that just like cis guys, trans guys like come in, you know, any and every sexual orientation and any and every gender expression. It just all boils down to, I knew that body I was in before was not right, and this one is.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense actually, because douchebag people think the same thing about lesbians, that all lesbians are these butch trying to be dudes, and I truly think it's that, because like all douchebag guys thinks that they're on the better team, so why wouldn't you want to be a part of that? And that's what's fucked up about it. That all right. Well, yeah, because I wanted to know, because I've been thinking about, I was playing there's a game out right now where you can be a trans man, and it's one of those like Telltale, choose your own adventure kind of games. And it just got me thinking about how little representation there is of trans men in any media, and how like you don't really hear about trans men whatsoever. Like it is the furthest thing when it comes to like the news cycle and everything. Obviously, I know I've met some other trans men. You do get it in the city, but like nobody in the country, nobody in Grand Junction where I'm from is talking about trans men. They're all talking about trans women. Nobody.
Well, it's. I think another big part of the problem is that, like, I think a big thing that put trans women on the topic of conversation for a lot of people was Laverne Cox starring in Orange is the New Black around the same time that Caitlyn Jenner, came out as Caitlyn. Those two things happen around the same time. So suddenly trans women, a lot of people that weren't necessarily thinking about trans women so much before now have a reference point. Yeah. There's not really the trans guy version of that. There's no, celebrities that are that as high profile as Caitlyn Jenner that are trans men. And there's also there is Elliot Fletcher who plays plays the trans dude character on Shameless, as well as The Fosters and Faking It. But like he's hardly as famous as Laverne Cox is at this point. Mm-hmm. Like I'm sure you guys all knew the name Laverne Cox, but not the name Elliot Fletcher. Like I would just assume that.
And I've definitely obviously know Caitlyn Jenner like that.
Yeah. So that's I think another part of it is that like, and if you were to try to like, if I were to ask you guys like, okay, think of as many trans guys as you possibly can, and obviously you can't name me or Elliot Fletcher. Like, I have a feeling it would be easier for you guys to compile a list of trans women than trans men, probably.
I can go to a porn site right now and find all
that. Click the right category.
I think that's also the other problem is that nobody closetly looks up trans men, whereas like there's a bunch of straight dudes looking up trans women and like, closetly jacking off to it.
I don't want to know what's in most people's closets. People are into weird shit. They're just into stuff. But the internet has brought people together. Like, you used to be in your room getting magazines mailed to you. Now you got friends on the internet.
2 hours.
Because we're awesome, Cal.
It's been 2 hours.
How long are we supposed to do? Wait, I don't know how long this podcast is supposed to be.
Cal's only got so much memory on his computer. Stop.
It was maximum 2 hours.
Oh, okay. Well, it's a good conversation.